I was like, I don't care about the melodies, and just let these lyrics come through.
Ever wondered about the dark, gritty side of your favorite music icons? Today, we're diving into the 35 most violent figures in music history. Trust me, some of these stories will shock you. 35. Ryan Adams. Did you know Ryan Adams went from guitar-strumming darling to a figure embroiled in scandal? After masquerading for years as an introspective guitar-strumming singer-songwriter, Ryan Adams was outed as an abusive monster by two ex-wives and several other women. He is alleged to have used his prominence in the music industry to coerce women into sexual activity and to have engaged in sexual communication with an underage fan. Adams was planning to release 3 albums in 2019. They were cancelled. His tour of Britain and Ireland was also cancelled. The New York Times reported that he was being investigated by the FBI. He is no longer married. In short, he got what was coming to him. 34. The Norwegian black metal scene. Ever heard of a music scene so extreme it led to church burnings and unsolved mysteries? The Norwegian black metal scene gained worldwide attention in the early 90s thanks to some truly infamous crimes. One of the most visually arresting and notorious crimes from the scene was the rash of church burnings perpetuated by members of the scene. According to several interviews and reports, members of the musical collective resented various religious groups. Throughout the 90s, a number of Norwegian churches were burnt down. Individuals like Varg Vikernes of the band Burzum and Samoth from a group called Emperor were both caught. However, many cases still went unsolved. Both historic churches and at least one life was lost during these arson attacks. 33. Carl Logan. Who is Carl Logan and how did his musical career take a dark turn? Carl Logan was a longtime guitarist for American heavy metal legends Manowar. His tenure with the band was brought to an abrupt end when he was arrested in 2018. During an investigation, it was found that Logan had multiple illegal recordings of young people being assaulted. Within a week of the arrest, Manowar officially severed all ties with the guitarist. Logan eventually stated that he knowingly possessed the exploitative content in court. Ultimately, he was tasked with spending just over a decade of his life in prison in 2022. Manowar's swift reaction to Logan's arrest makes it highly unlikely he'll reunite with the band again. 32. Bård Goldvik Eitun. Faust. Meet Faust, a musician whose name became synonymous with a chilling crime. Norwegian drummer known by the nickname of Faust was a member of black metal band Emperor. So one August day, Faust was walking through a park and a man named Magne Andreasen approached him, clearly intoxicated, and started flirting. At one point, Magne offered Faust to go to the woods, to which he agreed on, and then ended up stabbing the man he just met 37 times and even kicking his head while he was lying down on the ground. The drummer admitted to the crime but found it strange that he actually killed somebody. Faust also stated that he felt no remorse at the time. In 1994, he was sentenced to 14 years and served 9 years and 4 months. He continued writing and recording music after being released from prison. 31. Suge Knight. What's the real story behind Suge Knight, the man who ruled Death Row Records with an iron fist? Rap producer and mogul Marion Suge Knight has a reputation in the music industry for being ruthless, even downright cutthroat. He's been linked to several murders, including those of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. He and his label Death Row Records have deep ties to Los Angeles' gang underworld, and he's been caught up in all kinds of illicit activity, the depths of which might never be fully known. But there is at least one death out there that definitely happened because of Knight. In January 2015, Knight got into an argument with Clee Bone Sloan, who was working on the film Straight Outta Compton, a biopic about NWA, a group Knight had had many dealings with over the years. What started out as a verbal altercation in a Tam's Burgers parking lot turned violent when Knight backed over Sloan in his vehicle. He then threw the truck into drive and hit his own longtime friend Terry Carter before driving away. Carter later died from his injuries. 30. CMurder.
I'm here to let the whole world know I'm hard to control. You can't conquer my soul.
Who is CMurder and how did his fame become overshadowed by a shocking crime? In the late 90s, after the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, the rap world underwent a shakeup, and one of the biggest labels to come out of that era was No Limit Records, a label founded by rapper Master P and his two brothers, Silk the Shocker and CMurder. While Master P and Silk the Shocker kept things pretty chill, reveling in their musical success and even branching out into other forms of entertainment, CMurder's career was sidelined in 2003 when he was convicted of second-degree murder after killing a 16-year-old fan. For still unknown reasons, Steve Thomas and CMurder got into an altercation at a New Orleans nightclub, during which CMurder shot and killed the teen. CMurder was sentenced to life in prison where he remains, but he does still make music and release albums while incarcerated. 29. Felicia Snoop Pearson. Pearson learned how to portray a criminal by actually being a criminal in her youth. Starting out as a drug dealer while just a teen, Pearson had quite a record, and likely would have continued doing it if not for a murder charge. When Pearson was only 14, she killed 15-year-old Okaya Toomer, according to Salon. She was convicted of second-degree murder for the killing, but since she was a minor, only served a little over 6 years. After her release, she pulled her life together, earning a GED and working legit jobs. 4 years later, she met Michael K. Williams, who helped her get a role on The Wire. 28. Bobby Bosole. You might be forgiven for never hearing of Bobby Bosole. Very few people knew of him or his music in the 1960s. A talented guitarist, Bosole was a bit of a troublemaker in his youth and gravitated toward the hippie movement of Southern California as an adult. He played with several LA musicians as a guitarist and was beginning to make a name for himself when he met a fellow young musician named Charles Manson. After playing with Manson a few times and even appearing on Manson's one and only studio album, they became closer, and Bosole eventually joined Manson's family. Afterward, Manson convinced Bosole to kill Gary Hinman, who Manson believed owed the family money. Bosole did as he was told, and after Manson and the rest of the family were caught and imprisoned, Bosole went away too, and was sentenced to death, according to Vice. After a few years, Bosole's sentence was instead commuted to life in prison, and he is still incarcerated today. 27. Cassidy. Explore the rise and fall of Cassidy, rapper turned convict. In the early 2000s, rapper Cassidy was well known for his skills in freestyling and rap battles, and began making moves to release albums in a more traditional manner, signing with Rough Riders and releasing his debut album Split Personality in 2004. But just a few weeks before I'm a Hustler was released, Cassidy was arrested and charged based on an incident that happened earlier in the year. Cassidy and 2 accomplices had fired on 3 unarmed men, killing one, Desmond Hawkins, and injuring the other 2. The occurrence stemmed from an event earlier in the day where one of Cassidy's crew got into an argument with Roberto Johnson. Johnson, Hawkins, and one other got into a van unarmed and drove up behind Cassidy's house to confront them when they were attacked. Cassidy was initially charged with first-degree murder according to MTV News. This was eventually dropped to third-degree murder, then bumped back up to first-degree once again. In the end, though, prosecutors could only convict Cassidy of involuntary manslaughter. This carried a prison sentence of 11 to 23 months with credit for 7 months he had already served. He was released in 2006 and returned to his music career. 26. Jeff Whitehead. Jeff Whitehead, from underground music to a scandal that shocked the metal community. Jeff Whitehead, lurker of Chalice, Leviathan, was accused of raping his girlfriend using tattoo tools while working as a guest artist at Taylor Street Tattoo in Chicago. Jeff Whitehead, 42, allegedly choked and beat his 26-year-old girlfriend unconscious by banging her head against a wall in the early hours of Saturday, January 8th. When she regained consciousness and discovered she had been sexually assaulted with the tattoo tools, Whitehead then allegedly knocked her out again. When Whitehead's girlfriend regained consciousness once again, she found herself lying on the street outside the parlor. Whitehead was dressed all in black as he appeared before Judge Israel Desierto Sunday morning, wearing a hooded sweater with the words "Stop the Madness" printed on it. He was ordered to be held on bail of $350,000. He is yet to be convicted or sentenced. 25. Chris Brown. Chris Brown, celebrated artist or notorious figure? Chris Brown beats women, lies about doing community service, and picks fights with Frank Ocean. Chris Brown throws chairs and pounds his chest and tattoos Rihanna's mangled face on his neck. Chris Brown hates you, yet you continue to love him. Well, not you probably, but there's whole Tumblrs devoted to women saying Chris Brown could beat me anytime. And that's why Chris Brown isn't just vile, but frustrating. He's essentially a James Ellroy villain made manifest, the kind that doesn't just get away, but continues to thrive in spite of his crimes. In lieu of contrition, Brown layers on the braggadocio, conveying all the signs of a sociopathic narcissist. Sure, he's owned up to the deteriorative nature of the public's blowback, but only in how it affects his career. It's humanity the public wants, but humanity's the last thing Chris Brown is willing to show. Oh, and last weekend he bragged about losing his virginity at the age of 8. So there's that. 24. Left Eye. In 1994, TLC star Lisa Left Eye Lopez burned her boyfriend, Atlanta Falcons star Andre Rison's house to the ground. She admitted to setting the fire in the bathroom, but claimed she had no intention of incinerating the home. Lopez had long been vocal about her difficult past and had developed a negative reputation in the entertainment industry. The felony arson charges confirmed the public's worst assumptions. She and Rison became tabloid regulars until her untimely death in a car accident in 2002. 23. Natam. Natam of Swedish black metal outfit Silencer has been the subject of many rumors, such as cutting off his own hands during a recording only to personally sew pig's feet onto his bloody stumps. That rumor was created by the circulation of this photo to the right, which is one of the only known photographs of Natam. His face has never been revealed. This story may not be as bizarre as the last one, but it's much more disturbing. Allegedly, Natam randomly drove an axe into the skull of a 5-year-old girl in 2001, failing to kill her by mere millimeters. As police arrived on the scene, he attempted to commit suicide by cop by shouting, kill me," with the axe still in his hands. The cops distracted Natam using police dogs while another officer snuck up behind the crazed musician and brought him down. Natam was committed to the Vaksha psychiatric ward. 22. Rick James. After more than a decade at the top of the music industry, Rick James' decline in the early 90s culminated in a pair of cocaine-fueled kidnappings. During the first, James and girlfriend Tanya Hijazi kidnapped and tortured a 24-year-old hostage over 6 days. During the second, committed while he was out on bail for the first, James held a music executive captive for 20 hours. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. James' drug use was already public knowledge by the time he and Hijazi were arrested in 1991, but few understood the depths of his addiction. The Super Freak singer spent 2 years in prison and is now better known for his hedonist lifestyle than his cavalcade of 80s hits. 21. A$AP Rocky. How did A$AP Rocky go from Harlem's rising star to a headline-making legal battle? In 2019, Harlem-bred rapper A$AP Rocky was arrested on assault charges after a fight in Stockholm, Sweden. Because he posed a flight risk, authorities detained him until trial. The event became an international fiasco. Musicians proposed a boycott of the country, and even President Trump lumbered into the mix on Rocky's behalf. Rocky spent several months in prison, which, even in Sweden, is not fun. The court case became a focal point for international media, and significant tensions arose between Sweden and America, perhaps for the first time ever. In the end, Rocky was handed a suspended sentence and is now safely back on home soil. 20. Phil Spectre. Phil Spectre was a genius record producer who worked with acts like the Beatles, the Righteous Brothers, and the Ronettes. He is considered one of the greatest and most influential music industry figures of all time. Unfortunately, his personal life was volatile, and in 2003, actress Lana Clarkson was found dead in his home. In 2009, he was convicted of second-degree murder. The world greeted Phil Spector's murder conviction with shock, as it always does when a rich and successful person is accused of a heinous crime late in life. The media was doubly entranced by Spector's close ties to the Beatles, Ike and Tina Turner, and other big-name acts. But those who knew him reacted with resignation. Spector's volatile, mercurial behavior was common knowledge in the music industry, and the crime was seen by some as a tragic inevitability. 19. G.G. Allin. G.G. Allin, punk rock's most controversial figure. He never actually killed anyone, but a decade of bloody, violent, shit-strewn gigs made the notorious scum punk music's most consistent and confrontational threat. The man born Jesus Christ Allin in 1956 rewrote the rule book on audience participation, punching onlookers, defecating on stage, threatening suicide, and demanding fellatio. Jailed several times, in 1989 he was arrested for the rape and torture of a woman. He was eventually found guilty of assault and jailed for 15 months. This deprived him of the chance to keep his promise to kill himself on stage in 1990. Allin proved to be a marginally bigger danger to himself than to anyone else. At a gig in New York in 1993, in which he knocked a photographer unconscious and then hurled himself through a glass door, he had to leave, pursued by an angry mob. That night, he died of a heroin overdose in friend Johnny Puke's apartment. 18. Leadbelly. First jailed as a teen for assaulting a truculent Dallas prostitute, Huddy Ledbetter shot and killed a man in 1918. Although later pardoned by a sympathetic prison governor, he was jailed again in 1930 for assault with intent to murder, and in 1939. 17. Bertrand Cantat. Who is Bertrand Cantat, and how did tragedy overshadow his musical career? The frontman of Noir Désir and perhaps France's most famous rock star, Cantat was released last month after serving half of an 8-year sentence for killing his mistress. Actress Marie Trintignant died after he punched her repeatedly while out of control. 16. Big Lurch. The West Coast rhymer raised the rap and violence stakes in 2002 when he was convicted of murdering Tynesha Isaias in her apartment and eating parts of her face and lungs while high on PCP. He is currently serving a life sentence, which is a relief. 15. Spade Coolie. Spade Coolie, from Western swing to a shocking crime that stunned America. The king of Western swing, star of his own 1950s TV show, and a regular in B-Westerns, Coolie killed his wife in 1961 by stomping her to death in front of his 14-year-old daughter after learning she wanted a divorce. He died soon after of a heart attack. 14. Hugh Whitaker. Meet Hugh Whitaker, a figure whose music career was overshadowed by a shocking accusation. The House Martins' innocuous-looking drummer was banged up in 1993 for firebombing the house of a business associate and, according to Paul Heaton, hitting the guy straight on the head with an axe. That'll do it every time. 13. Jah Cure. Jamaica's baddest reggae star was sentenced to 15 years in 1999 for raping a woman at gunpoint. Released on parole in July, Cure was due to play in the UK last month, but was refused an entry visa due to his criminal conviction. 12. Vier Ness. The man behind black metal Norseman Burzum enjoys church burning and is currently doing time for murdering Mayhem's Oystein Arseth in 1993. Vier Ness is due for release next year despite escaping briefly with enough firearms to pass for a commando. 11. Jim Gordon. Which member of Derek and the Dominoes and co-writer of Layla murdered his mother with a hammer and knife in 1983, believing she was Satan? A. Not Eric Clapton. Psychiatrically disturbed drummer Gordon remains locked up. 10. Chief Keef. At only 18 years old, Keith Cozart, aka Chief Keef, has a rap sheet that's longer than his discography, having been arrested for heroin distribution, pointing loaded guns at cops, violating his parole, and going 2 times the speed limit with too many passengers in the car. The Chicago MC was also investigated in connection with the murder of Lil Jojo, a fellow local rapper who was part of a rival gang, following a series of tweets that mocked his death. With promising cosigns from artists like Kanye West and Birdman, the I Don't Like rapper has a lot of time and plenty of opportunities to save face, but he's yet to show any interest in doing so. In the meantime, his own Glory Boys Entertainment label continues to grow, leaving us to speculate where the career of this troubled rapper security risk might end up. 9. Courtney Love. Widow to Kurt Cobain, former Hole singer, and freight train of madness, Courtney Love has derailed countless times in her long storied career. Her erratic personality and litany of substance abuse problems have created a sordid melting pot of chaos, which has boiled over from bad to really bad to out of control. In the past, she's lost custody of her child, Frances Bean Cobain, attempted suicide multiple times, and attacked celebrities and fans both verbally and physically. Reckless, tragic, and unpredictable don't even begin to describe Love. Google her name and crazy moments, and you'll find more than a dozen lists, all with various jaw-dropping stories, from being accused of killing her daughter's pets to almost bashing a journalist's head in with Quentin Tarantino's Oscar. In the words of Johnny Carson, it's all wild and wacky stuff, but whether or not she's pure evil, well, that's up for debate. Personally, she's an anti-hero I've fallen in love with. 8. Gary Glitter. Rock and Roll Part 2, also known as the Hey Song, and best recognized as an overplayed stadium anthem that sits comfortably beside We Will Rock You in the pantheon of tunes that appeal to base instincts, emerged from the glammed up and twisted mind of Gary Glitter in 1972. Glitter was a man of few lyrics who hid something sinister behind his sculpted eyebrows and shiny stage jackets. The whispers of impropriety that followed Glitter for decades finally came to the public's attention after a busted hard drive of child pornography was discovered by a PC World store employee. Glitter faced a bevy of kiddie porn charges in his native UK and also had his cameo being ripped from the final theatrical cut of Spice World. Hey now, the troubled singer took to the lam, embarking on a world tour to escape the authorities. But this twisted hideout across Southeast Asia merely netted Glitter a string of even worse offenses as he engaged in sexual assaults with underage victims in Cambodia and Vietnam. Glitter was caught and served time in a number of countries, but oddly enough, he is free at the moment and announced plans to record a new album. I hope I speak for all Earth citizens when I say, Gary, give it up and go away. The world doesn't need a rock and roll part 3, and we could all stand to lose a man who harbors such sinister urges. 7. Ian Watkins. The disturbing case of Ian Watkins, a rock star's double life exposed. Ian David Carslake Watkins is a Welsh convicted sex offender and former singer, songwriter, and musician. He achieved prominence as the co-founder, lead vocalist, and lyricist of the rock band Lost Prophets. In 2013, he was sentenced to 29 years of imprisonment for multiple sexual offenses, including the sexual assault of young children and babies, a sentence later augmented by 10 months for being found guilty of having a mobile phone in prison. Lost Prophets disbanded shortly thereafter, and the other members formed the band No Devotion. 6. Charles Manson. Charles Mills Manson was an American criminal and musician who led the Manson family, a cult based in California in the late 1960s. Some of the members committed a series of 9 murders at 4 locations in July and August 1969. In 1971, Manson was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 people, including the film actress Sharon Tate. The prosecution contended that, while Manson never directly ordered the murders, his ideology constituted an overt act of conspiracy. 5. R. Kelly. Robert Sylvester Kelly is an American singer, songwriter, and record producer convicted of racketeering and sex offenses. During his recording career, Kelly sold over 75 million records worldwide, making him the most commercially successful male R&B artist of the 1990s and one of the world's best-selling music artists. He won 3 Grammys for his song I Believe I Can Fly, and was also nominated for his song You Are Not Alone, recorded by Michael Jackson. Critics dubbed him the king of R&B, while he billed himself the Pied Piper of R&B. Starting in the 1990s, journalists and alleged victims of Kelly accused him of sexually abusing young fans, including minors, and luring them into inappropriate sexual relationships. The Cook County State's Attorney indicted Kelly in 2002 on child pornography charges, but failed to convict in a resulting 2008 trial. Kelly evaded lasting consequences until the 2019 documentary television series Surviving R. Kelly re-examined accusations of Kelly's sexual misconduct with minors. Backlash led RCA Records to terminate their contract with Kelly. Law enforcement in New York, Chicago, and Minneapolis pursued new criminal cases against Kelly following the documentary. Kelly was arrested on federal charges in July 2019. Denied bail, Kelly has been a federal prisoner since. 4. Gall. In 1998, Norwegian black metal vocalist Gall, known to his mom as Christian Espedal, joined Gorgoroth, a band with a stage show that sometimes featured impaled sheep heads, satanic symbols, and mock crucifixions performed by naked models covered in blood. But Gall took things a little too far in 2002 when he was incarcerated for 11 months for assaulting a man, and again in 2005 when he was imprisoned for 9 months after allegedly torturing another man for 6 hours, collecting his blood in a cup, and threatening to make him drink it. Gall said he was acting in self-defense both times. 3. Tim Lambesis. The metalcore world was shocked in May 2014 when Tim Lambesis, singer for As I Lay Dying, was charged with a felony for allegedly attempting to solicit an undercover detective to murder his wife of 8 years. Despite his claims that steroids altered his mind, Lambesis was sentenced to 6 years in prison just 11 days after his arrest. 2. Sid Vicious. When your name is Sid Vicious, you're expected to maintain a certain level of brutality. But when your real name is John Ritchie, you're still expected to play by the same rules as the rest of society. Unfortunately, we may never know whether or not Sid Vicious actually belongs on this list. He might not have fatally stabbed his girlfriend Nancy Spungen in their room at New York's Hotel Chelsea in 1978. There are claims that a drug dealer might have done it, but investigators were convinced enough to charge the Sex Pistols bassist with second-degree murder. However, after he pled not guilty and was released on bail, Vicious died of a heroin overdose before a trial could take place. 1. Dave Holland. Dave Holland, the hidden truths behind a rock band's tragic story. While Judas Priest went through a number of drummers during their career, Dave Holland was something of a mainstay, who worked with the band on a number of high-profile albums. But Holland's legacy was forever tainted in the early 2000s. During a court case, he was convicted for assaulting and attempting to initiate indecent contact with a young drumming student. Despite his insistence that nothing inappropriate had happened, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Holland also had his work on an upcoming album completely taken off so someone else could come in and record his part. After the grim news story broke, the musician unsuccessfully attempted to refute the claims and recover his reputation. Some of these stories are truly shocking and remind us that fame doesn't always bring out the best in people. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the wild world of music. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.